A good Erev Shabbos, everyone. As it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this segment of For the Shabbos Table. And it's exclusively made possible to the Olam by the tremendous generosity of the Rubin family, who sponsor the share from week to week. And we wish them that Hashem should be mamali all their wishes for the good. In the main share this week, aired on TorahAnytime.com Thursday at 9, we spoke about Parshas Chukas, so I named this for the Shabbos table Balak, since it's a week with two Parshiyos. And I want to start off with a very great fundamental lesson of Yiddishkeit about a serious crime which is unique to Jews. Vayiftach Hashem es pi ha'asain. Hashem opened the mouth of the donkey, and we know that the donkey bested Bilam, and if the donkey was allowed to live, it would have been make Bilam a laughing stock. People say, that's the donkey that bested the prophet. You know, he calls himself a prophet. He couldn't even deal with a donkey. That's the talking donkey that got the better of Bilam. So Rashi brings down, Mipnei shedibra v'yichicha es Bilam, because she spoke and she rebuked Bilam, v'lo yachal lamad b'teichacha, so he couldn't even answer back. Chos hamokam al kavod abriyas. Hashem was concerned for the kavod of Bilam, v'haragesa, and he killed the donkey. And so we find also that if a woman is a passive partner in bestiality with an animal, and the woman is put to death, so he killed the animal too, although the animal didn't exercise bechira. But we don't want people to say, that's the animal that woman sinned with. And of course, the Balak tell us a remarkable thing, that here we have a man who is willing to curse Klal Yisrael, and indeed succeeded in a plot to get the Jews to sin with the Bnei Moav, a plot of immorality which caused 24,000 Jews to die. And Hashem is still concerned that he shouldn't be embarrassed. Hashem is still concerned for his humiliation. So imagine how Hashem is concerned about the humiliation of a good person. I said that this is something that is different. You know, by the Goyim, the papers have gossip columns. People listen to the radio and they hear talk show hosts talking about people, and in front of who knows how many thousands of people they say embarrassing things about people publicly. You know, in Yiddishkeit, we consider the crime of embarrassing a person in public, if a person does it habitually, like the Meiri says, it's a crime that's deserving of costing a person their entire eternity. That's how serious the crime is. There's not many things that you do. Eventually a person goes to Gehenna and gets purged in the sufferings of the 7 levels of Gehenna, and then they go on to have an eternity in Gan Eden. But for embarrassing a person could lose their eternity. It shows us the enormity of the crime. There is a remarkable Gemara about how serious we take avoiding embarrassing people. The Gemara tells us, Mutav la'adam sheyapel atzmai l'seif kivshana eish. It would be better for a person to cast themselves into a furnace V'al yalbim pnei chaver b'rabim. Now, I didn't quote it right. I'm a little tired. The Gemara says, Noyach loy la'adam. It should be easier for a person, sheyapel atzmai l'sei kivshan ha'esh, malahal b'pnei chaver b'ram. We know that we learned this out. Tamar was very pregnant with two children, the eventual Zerach and Peretz, who from Tamar would come Malchus Beis David. But she wasn't going to say, my father-in-law, Yehuda, it was with you that I had that meeting. She said to he who this signet and walking staff belongs to, if he would admit it, then she would be exonerated. If not, then she would go to be burnt. But it was easier for her. That's an incredible, easier to go into an oven? Easier to end your life and the life of your two newborn babies? Your unborn babies? Easier? You could say you're a hero. You could say that you're Moisa Nefesh. You're courageous. You sacrifice, but easier? It means that a person has to have greater dread for embarrassing someone than for burning in an oven. That's what the Rabban Yisham wants us. The Rabban Yisham wants us to dread embarrassing person. A person has to work on this. It's not an easy thing to do. You see that this was something that was very real by the Gedalim. I remember they say if you're Masada Kedushin by a chasana, and you work very hard on a ksuva, and maybe it's a fancy ksuva that the family bought, and you don't want it to get spoiled, and you have to then use a second, and all that money they spent on the fancy ksuva is ruined. So let's say they call up a person for an aid, and you don't know if he is going to sign his name and his father's name correctly. So there's some Masada Kedushin that have them write it down on a paper first, so they see if they know how to spell it. Rapam didn't like that. Rapam says because you want to avoid a problem, you embarrass a person, like you have to test him if he knows how to spell his name. Now, in reality, so I never did this, I never tested a person. Once I lost the ksuba. I had to rip up the ksuba and write it all over again and delay the wedding, and they had to use a copy, just a piece of paper and not their fancy ksuba. The person's name was Tzvi, and Tzvi is spelled Tzadik Vez Yud, which a good way to remember that is it's a mnemonic for Tzadik Be'emunasa Yechya, and he spelled it Tzadik Vav Yud, which is no good. But Rapam says it makes a difference. You can't embarrass someone. We say over that the Chabina Rav, Yitzis Pnina HaTorah brings down this Maisa, that the Chabina Rav was once by Ksivas Sefer Torah. And of course, the Chabina Rav knew how to write a letter himself. And there's an Indian to write your own letter if you know how, because mitzvah b'yaisim b'shlucha, it's better to do it yourself than to delegate someone else. But he told the Sefer, you do a better job, you do it. So then everybody else that came also let the Sefer do it. If Chabina Rav is not doing it, they know better than the Chabina Rav. So somebody who saw it asked the Sefer why he did that. So he said because he saw in the group over there was a renegade Jew, a Yisrael Mumma, who wasn't kosher to write in a Sefer Torah. But he didn't want to have to embarrass him and say, you can't write. So he had sensitivity to a renegade Jew. And therefore he didn't write, so everybody didn't write, so it spared the renegade Jew the embarrassment of being disqualified. They say over a similar Maisa with Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. Shlomo Zalman Auerbach was by a chasana, and he saw that the family wanted to make one of the Eidim a person of shady character. Now an Eid, if he's not good, it disqualifies the wedding. But Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach didn't want to embarrass him. So he was standing up by the chuppah and he said, told this man of the shady character, he says, I'm feeling a little bit shaky. I want you to be Masada Kedushin instead of me. The man paled. I'm not a rabbi. He says, no, you make the brachas. I'll show you what to do. And Rav Shlomo Zalman became aid. Because aidus, if it's no good, it disqualifies the chasana. But he wouldn't say, no, you can't be an aid, because that would embarrass the person publicly. That's the way we see by our Gedolim how, and this is based also on, one of the greatest acts of heroism in Chumash Bereshis, if not maybe the greatest act, is when Yosef was about to reveal himself to the brothers. He said, "Hitziu kol ish me'alai." Remove everybody from the room, all the palace guards, all the minstrels, all the pages, everywhere, the Secret Service, out. Now Ramila says he did that because he was ready to make shalom with his brothers, and when there would be shalom, there would be ashras hashchina. He didn't want the goyim to be by the ashras hashchina. But the Medrash says a different reason. The Medrash says he was going to say, Ani Yosef, who you sold. And he didn't want to embarrass the brothers in front of the Egyptians. Now Chazal tell us when he sent all the palace guards out, he risked his life that they might try to finish the job. He was no match for the might. Maybe he could have dealt with Yehuda alone. But Yehuda with the other brothers? No way! He was no match. They could have wiped him out. They could have ended the but he risked his life rather than... Now whose dignity, whose shame was he being concerned about? The people that weren't concerned, they lowered him naked into a pit. They weren't concerned about his humiliation when they sold him into then what looked like perpetual slavery. They weren't worried about him. You see, we see remarkable things from over here. We shouldn't say, well, I don't have to be concerned about his humiliation. He's a sinner. He's a bum. The Torah is concerned about the humiliation of Bilam, who wanted to curse God's Klal Yisrael. You can't say, I don't have to be concerned about his humiliation. He wasn't concerned about mine. He deserves it. Look at Yosef. He was willing to risk his life and sent out all the palace guards rather than embarrass the brothers who treated him so terribly, with such humiliation, selling him into slavery, removing his clothes. We find that the Mishnah says that when we bring a carbon chattis, it's on the north, and we also bring a carbon oila on the north to camouflage that people shouldn't say, oh, he's a sinner. It might not be a chattis, it might be an oila. So again, Hashem is concerned about the reputation of a sinner. It even tells us in the Torah that the tree that brought death to mankind, the Eitz Hadas, the Torah doesn't say what it is. A big machlokes in the Gemara. Was it an esrog tree? Was it a wheat tree? Was it a grape tree? Was it a fig tree? There's all kinds of shittas. Right? Why doesn't the Torah tell us? Because the Torah is concerned that people shouldn't say, that's the tree that brought death to mankind. The tree doesn't have feelings. The Torah says you have to be concerned about people, not to embarrass people. They say over that Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach was sitting in a bus in Eretz Yisrael, and in came a Jewish girl, and she was dressed completely immodestly. It was the summer. She was wearing hardly any clothing, and she sat down right next to Rav Shlomo Zalman. Rav Shlomo Zalman didn't jump up. What did he do? He rang the bell and then got up and got off at the next stop and waited for another bus. Somebody asked him why did he handle it that way. He said, what should I have done? Continue sitting there next to a girl that's not sneezestick. It's a chilul Hashem that I should be sitting right next to her. To get up and going back of the bus, I'd embarrass her. I can't embarrass her. I mean, see how he's concerned about a Jewish girl that's dressed so poorly. I can't embarrass her. You know, the first word of the Torah, Bereshis, stands for so many things. It's an acronym of Amen Yesh Me Rabbah called Tefillah. And Yorei Shabbos, a person should be in awe of Shabbos. But Bereshis is also an anagram of Yorei Beishis. Have to be afraid of embarrassing people. Can't embarrass people. You know, there's a Maisa with the Friedrich Bluger Rebbe. Remarkable Maisa with the Friedrich Bluger Rebbe. Somebody was davening in the Bluger Beis Medrash off 14th Avenue. And he was davening and he started repeating words. Shoichenad! Shoichenad! Now, don't repeat words in davening. So somebody yelled out, Eveis nish vitze daven. He doesn't know how to daven. So the Bluger Rebbe commented later, it's correct, this person has to be taught how to daven. But the person that yelled it out and embarrassed him is a shofech daven. He's a murderer. I have to know it's a terrible crime. We have to teach children already in the schoolyard that a child that yells out, no, did we have to get stuck with Chaim? He has 10 left fingers. He can't catch a ball to save his life. He's ruining it for everybody. Mamish is embarrassing Chaim in front of the whole yard. It's mortifying him. We have to know that that's a real serious crime. You know, even in the 10th parak, in Chelek, in Sanhedrin, it says the things that ein lo chelek l'olam haba, a person loses their afterlife. Kofer b'tchias hamesim, somebody denies the resurrection. It says hamakana shem chaver, somebody calls a person by a disparaging nickname, embarrassing someone. Fatty, come here. It's one of the highest crimes in Yiddishkeit. This is something that we have to learn. Torah is instructing us how we have to behave. You know, I want to share with you. It's a maisala, but I think it's a powerful maisala. There was a boy in Ofakim that there was a riddle. Where do you have one pasuk that has 15 lamets? And a person that answered the riddle would get a reward. So the boy heard that maybe you could ask a computer, and Reb Shamshon Pincus had a computer. So he went over to the gadol, and he smiled. He says, you can't ask the computer, but he says, what's the question? What's the riddle? So the boy said, well, where is there a pasuk that has 15 lamets? So Reb Shamshon Pincus thought for about 30 seconds, and he says it's in Balak, Perak Chav Beis, pasuk lamed zayin. Our parsha is very fascinating. Vayomer Balak el Bilam haloi shalach shalachti elecha likra lach lama loy halachta elai ha'omnan loy uchel kabdecha. In that pasuk there's 15 lamets. But look how Reb Shimshon Pincus knew it. This is the meaning of Chachamim Ikrei Soifrim. The sages were counters. They knew they were so conscious because they know that to Torah everything is purpose. I've said I don't want to go into length now. We want to speak about other things. We said that the first 7 words of Aleinu are Lamed. Aleinu, l'shabeach, l'adayin, l'akol, l'seis, gedula, l'yoytzer, l'yoytzer. Because when Yeshua came out of Eretz Yisrael, and when Yeshua was entering Eretz Yisrael, he saw the depravity of the Canaanites. That's why Hashem didn't want them to live. The human sacrifices, killing their children, all kinds of depraved immorality. Right? So Yeshua thanked Hashem and Aleinu. You don't make us like them. And what differentiates us? That we learn Torah every day. That's the 7 Lameds. Every day we learn and if you look, you'll see that there's 9 Lameds if you daven Ashkenaz. So if you daven Ashkenaz, so what does it say in our Rabbah? So we have over there, we have 9 Lameds. Right? What do we say? We say V'sein b'libeinu, that's 1 lamed. Lahavin, that's 2 lameds. Lahaskil, that's 3. Lishmaya, that's 4. Lilmaid, that's 5. Ulalamed, that's 6. Lishma, that's 7. Lasais, that's 8. Ulakayim is 9. Why is there 9 lameds? We talk about being able to learn and to teach. So I believe that it's, again, lamed means to learn, and it's pointing to the 9 months that we learned Torah in our mother's womb, and because of that, we all have the ability to learn Shas and to learn Shulchan Aruch. It hints to that. So there's a reason for everything. That's why we daven a formalized prayer. We daven a formalized prayer, although it's a bigger challenge because it makes it robotic. But we do it because we're tapping into all the secrets that our predecessors put in this davening. There's a famous Marsha, which is very important to mention. Vayomer Malach Hashem el Bilam, Leichem Anashim. Now Hashem told him not to go, but Bilam wanted to go. So Rashi says, why did Hashem say that he could go if Hashem didn't want him to go? So Rashi tells us the great Yesod in Makis, B'derech she'adam roitza leilech malich noisai. The way a person wants to go, that's the way he's led. This is the great idea of Rav Nachman. Ein davar oimid b'fnei haratzon. But there's a remarkable Marsha. The Marsha in Makis says, why is it that the way a person wants to go, he's led? He says because if a person wants something, he creates a malach. And that malach helps him bring his desire to fruition. Let me quote to you the lashon of the Marsha. Mikol mitzvah she'adam oisa nivra malach. Every mitzvah that a person does creates a malach. What's the malach created from? Mimachshava v'aratzon shel ha'adam lasis mitzvah, from the desire and the want that a person has to do mitzvah. Nivroim malachim, angels are created. Malachim alalu shenivru maratzin shalai, and the malachim that are created from his desire, hey moilichin oisai misayin lo sheyuchel l'kayim es mitzvah. They help him that he should be able to do a mitzvah. Now let's translate this lamaisa. Here's a person. He wants to have better shalom bayis. He knows that shalom bayis brings shechina into the home. He knows that the Chaim Vital says that the mark of a Adam HaShalom, a complete man, is how he treats his spouse, how she treats his spouse. He knows that this is a fulfillment of a haftal riacha kamaycha. A woman knows that it's her purpose to be an ezer kenegda. A man knows it's his purpose to be with simach hazishta. But it's not easy to shalom bayis. But he makes up his mind. He really wants to work on it. Boy, does he get a power! He gets his very own malach. That's what the Maharsha says. He gets a very own malach. That's Messiah Sheyuchel L'Kayim Es HaMitzvah. Take another example. A person is frustrated. You know, my davening, it's the pits. I open up the siddur and I'm saying the words, but I'm not even talking to Hashem. I don't even know what it means. I space out. I'm bending my knees. I'm not even thinking that I'm bowing down to Hashem. Person is frustrated. He got into such a habit of a vishana nasa. He doesn't even feel he's doing something wrong. Goes to shul the whole Shabbos morning. He never had kavanah once to Hashem. He makes up his mind. You know, I want to daven better. Ooh, does he get a powerful advocate? Gets a malach to help him daven better. Habalatayar Messiah Noisai. Here's a boy or a girl having trouble with kibbut avein. Yeah. But they say, you know, Hashem says there's three partners, father, mother, and Hashem. The way you treat your parents, that's how I know you treat me. That's the test. The person says, you know, I really got to work on this. When the reward is so great, length of life and also quality, I need to work on it. You create a malach. You create a tremendous power to be able to continue. Ratzon is so important. Many times I've said that the Gaon says that the major objectives of life are hinted into the word Bereshis. The Beis is Bitachon, the Reish is Ratzon, the Aleph is Ava, the Shin is Shtika, the Yud is Yira, and the Taf is Torah. But of these major objectives, Ratzon. Because a will, when you have the will to do something, it creates a malach. Here's a person, he has a will, you know, it's hard to give away my money. But I want to give tzedakah. I realize what I spend in this world is very temporary, but what I give to tzedakah is zoyreya tzedakahs, but you know, it's hard to give away the money. I want to buy things. I want to put away, but I want to, the Rebbeinu Shalom says that you give your, like Munabaz HaMelech says, I'm putting it where nobody could touch it. The economy is in recession, banks fail. Once I give it to tzedakah, it's mine forever. He makes up his mind, he's going to give more tzedakah. He sincerely says, I want to work on this. Then a malach comes to help him. It's a very great thing. Now, Rabbi Isai, again, you see what one person could do. The Reuben family made this share possible, able to share Torah around the world. Of course, we appreciate TorahAnytime.com, Kol HaLashon, Torah Communications Network, Dial Share. They make the Torah possible to be reached all over the world. So we thank the Reuben family. If you want to sponsor one of my shiurim, Medaf Yaimi, the main Chumash share, Mishnah Yaimis, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. Thank you very much for joining me, and have a wonderful Shabbos.